Ranting, reflecting, reasoning, reckoning.
The Huddle with paperplusoffice.co.nz. Buy all your office supplies and stationery online now.
1826, Josie Pagani is with us on The Huddle. Hello, Josie.
Hi, Larry.
And we have Cameron Slater, the editor of Truth, and whaleoil.co.nz. Hello, Cam.
Hi, Larry.
Cam, I'm coming to you first on this. 7 schools in Christchurch will close. 12 schools that were previously in line to either close or merge will remain open. What's your take on this?
Well, I think there needed to be some rationalisation of the schools in Christchurch. A large number of people have left the city as a result of the earthquake, and it's perhaps not surprising that there's increased classrooms and things like that being built in Auckland to accommodate the people that moved up here. So you had some schools down there with less than 50 pupils. You've got a whole lot of teachers there and some pretty wrecked buildings. It just makes sense to rationalise the building and location situation. And the thing is this happens around the country all the time. As suburbs grow and mature, there's less need for primary schools, and then your population moves and schools get built in other places. And I really can't see what all the screaming and fuss is all about, really.
That's true, Cam. I mean, you're right that this does happen, and it happens under Labour and it happens under a national government, and Trevor Mallard had a hell of a time with schools closing. That's right. So, I mean, the populations move and you have to make tough decisions. The problem I have with this decision, though, because I've been working on the Christchurch earthquake rebuild for a couple of years now, and I think it's too soon to predict where the population moves are going to be. So for a start, you've got massive housing pressures down there. The rebuild hasn't really started yet, so people will need temporary accommodation. That'll put heaps of pressure on the rental market. People will move to different suburbs. Then you've got about 30,000 migrant workers needed over a number of years to come in and rebuild Christchurch. So where are they going to go? Are they going to bring their families?
Well, maybe we can put them in the rec schools.
Here. Well, put them in the rec schools.
Yeah, the accommodation is probably better than where they're used to living in the Philippines.
But these might be migrant workers from Auckland, though, Cam. They're not necessarily coming from overseas.
Kiwis are going to do it. They're too lazy.
Yeah, well, so here's another thing. You can't both say, on the one hand, that Christchurch is the biggest stimulus this country's got and it's saving us from a financial crash, and then on the other hand, turn around and say, everybody's leaving, there's nothing happening.
Well, there's still 6% unemployment in Christchurch in a city that's desperate for workers to get off their chuff. And they won't do it. And this government is betting its bottom dollar that this will be a huge jobs market down in Christchurch. So you can't say that on the one hand and then say, we've got to close the schools because everybody's leaving. But you've still got 6% of indigent people, and that seems to flow through into these carping and whinging moaners that are talking about the heart of their community, the locals. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're building.
Yeah, but the other thing, Cam, the other thing I would say about that, and I know what you mean, but the other thing I would say about that is I worked on some of the temporary villages, and you have to do the community buy-in, and we all know, and you would agree, that Hekia Parata has not mucked it up. And you have to go to the archery club and say, hey, we're going to build a temporary village in your local park, and we might have to take your archery club or something. You know, you've got to do the hard yards on that, and she didn't do it. And the other, the announcement today that some of these schools that thought they'd stay open until 2015. Look, if I was a mum and I'd enrolled my kid thinking, right, I've got till 2015 and then I can move schools, that's fine. And then you're told, we're going to bring it forward a year or more. That's just a silly own goal.
We'll come back on this topic in just a moment. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater with me. It's 15-6.
Larry Williams Drive with the business banking specialists at Westpac.
Back on the Huddle with Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. Cameron, to you, we'll just stay with the schools for the moment. Look, 7 schools are going to close, which will affect 650 students.
1%.
Right, and 12 are going to be merged into 6. That wouldn't seem to me... that would seem to me to be reasonable on the surface of it. We've got 2 schools being rebuilt on their existing site. This has been forgotten. 5 brand new schools are being built. 8 schools are being rebuilt on new sites.
Yeah, I understand it's $1 billion worth of new schooling and school spending is being poured into the Christchurch region, and we're carping and moaning about 1% of students who face it in 5 years' time won't even be at that school.
Don't you think, Josie, that it's better to have, 1 school rather than 2 with better resources? New buildings. I mean, who's the winner out of this? The children are, surely.
Yeah, that's right. Is that information information, if the research you're doing about that is right, in other words, if there really is a school with 50 kids and it's likely to stay at 50 kids, the problem is there's so many unknowns here. This is a very unique situation post a disaster. And the other thing I would say, again, it comes back to that buy-in. We keep hearing about this wonderful plan for a new learning system and a new education fresh system for the new century, etc. No one's quite clear what that means.
Sounds like rubbish.
People have got to buy into it. You know, if Hekia's going to come out with this jargon, they've got to know what she's talking about. And I think that's part of the problem, that she talks about spending $1 billion and having a wonderful education system for the future, but no one's clear what that means to them.
Well, the other...
thinking, what's in that for my kids?
Hekia Parata is a collection of bumper stickers, and that's about the depth of her knowledge on the issue.
One of the things that I have a concern over is that parents get fed all this sort of stuff, and where is it coming from? It's coming from the NZEI. And if it's the union, the union sort of thing.
I would also say, though, Larry, it's also coming from Hekia herself and even from the ministry, who talk in this jargon about, you know, teachers are scaffolders of worth who must have a learning pathway. And you're sort of thinking, what is my kid actually going to learn anything?
Here's the thing: let's focus on the 20% long brown tail, shall we, instead of using weasel words.
So I think the point is that she's failed to get anyone excited about a vision for education in Christchurch. So all they're hearing is your school's closing, your school's merging, and it's all going to be wonderful.
Well, she'll never do that, Josie. You know, we all know that, because no national education minister is going to excite teachers. Anyway, just before you go, Sky City. Well, you know that's true. Sky City Auditor General's report on the convention centre. Just very quick, briefly, what are you expecting to come out of this, Cameron?
Well, I think this will be a little bit of a yawn, and we know this because, I tell you what, we've seen last week an Auditor General's report that's been prematurely leaked and all sorts of spin going around it. We haven't heard a thing about this other than it's coming out tomorrow, and there's not even a line of spin, so I'd say it'll be a non-event.
Josie?
I know that we all get a bit sick of all these inquiries, but actually it's a good thing. Like, we rank under Finland for transparency in business. Unfortunately, we don't have their GDP. But, you know, it's a good thing that we're seen to look at anything that looks like a crony deal. Let's shine some light on it and see that it was kosher. It's a good thing.
Thank you, Josie. Josie Pagani and Cameron Slater. It's 9 to 6.